The deity makes a vagina out of a moose liver, and the old man coyote sticks his penis out of the ground. The guilty wife is raped by 50 people, and the husband forces the spouse to cook the meat of the lover. The elders have sex with the wives of the hunters during the ritual, and the coyote marries 7 brothers. About all this, as well as why the young men were waiting for hallucinations, in our video about the sexual traditions of the Prairie Indians. Some of the most famous North American Indians are the tribes of the Great Plains. They hunted bison, antelope, and deer, which became much easier with the advent of horses and firearms. The Indians of the prairies are not one people. There were many tribes and cultures that had their own language and traditions, including those related to sex.
The Prairie Indians had a developed and complex cosmogony. However, to an outsider it seems rather strange. For example, the Winnebago Indians have a legend about the deity Wakjunkaga, who became the first woman by marrying a tribal chief and making herself a vagina from an elk liver and breasts from kidneys. Everything went well, and the couple had 3 sons. Even stranger is the story of the coyote from the tradition of the Wichita Indians. This trickster beast promised 7 brothers that he would give them his own daughter to marry, but the prankster didn't have a daughter. On the day of the wedding, Coyote turned into a girl himself and married all the brothers at the same time. He even managed to give birth to a child before the forgery was exposed. The brothers were so upset that they ascended to heaven and became the Big Dipper and are still looking at the earth, wondering how they made such a mistake. But the most dashing tale is told by the Crow Indians. Their fairy tale character named Old Man Coyote, when the girls appeared, quickly burrowed into the ground, and an erect penis poked out to the surface, passing it off as a berry. Judging by Crow's stories, the girls often fell for this deception.
Among the Indians of the Great Plains, military conflicts were commonplace. Men often died, were in short supply, and the answer to this was polygamy. Girls got married early, at the age of 14 or 15, boys not earlier than 20. His masculinity still had to be proved. To do this, the boy had to perform several acts, arrange a bison hunt, go on a military campaign, but most importantly experience hallucinations. Yes, it was the vision that was a sign of growing up and the appearance of a patron spirit in the boy. To receive this vision, the boy underwent a purification ritual, steamed in a bathhouse, repeatedly swam in a river or lake, and then left the tribe for a week and was in seclusion. There he prayed and smoked tobacco, and somewhere in these moments, in a dream or in reality, the young man's mind was visited by a patron spirit who determined his future fate. The girls also waited for the vision and also retired, but at the same time doing household chores. Sometimes the young man could not achieve the appearance of such a spirit. Then he bought a patron spirit from another Indian. The peoples of the plains treated premarital sex in different ways. In some tribes, such as the Cheyenne, Arapaho, and Sioux, virginity was so valued that girls even used chastity belts. Among the Apache and Comanche, on the contrary, sex before marriage was considered normal, and Apache women maintained sexual freedom after marriage. In other tribes, the traditions were closer to the Cheyenne, although not so strict. Problems often arose when an experienced and wealthy warrior took another, perhaps already the 10th wife, and, having fulfilled his marital duty a couple of times, forgot about his new lover. This led to treason, which was treated extremely negatively in most tribes.
The Indians of the Great Plains were punished for treason in different ways in different tribes. Crow's husband could just snort when he found out about his wife's adultery, or he could slash her with a knife. Among the Chickasaw Indians, the traitor was treated differently. The girl caught for the first time in adultery was shorn by her relatives, thus depriving her of honor, and then locked in a dark room for a long time. If this happened again, her ear, lip, or nose were cut off. So did the Sioux. Among the Cree Indians, the punishment was even harsher. After learning about the betrayal and receiving evidence, the husband, in front of the whole village, took his wife into the forest on a leash like a dog, tied her to a tree, and killed her with an arrow. Relatives had no right to bury the corpse. It was devoured by animals, which was considered a terrible disgrace. The Gravanter's husband, who found out about adultery and did nothing, decreased in social status, so that society itself pushed him to severe punishment. There is a documented case when a spouse cut off his wife's arms and breasts, leaving her to die in this form. But sometimes the adulterer got it no matter what his social status was. In one of the stories, a husband, finding his wife in an unambiguous pose with a tribal leader, shot a would-be lover without hesitation. What he did to his wife, history is silent. But the fiercest tale is known from the legends of the Dakota Indians. One day, the husband, suspecting his wife of infidelity, went hunting. Naturally, he did not go anywhere, but hid in the bushes. Pretty soon, a lover appeared who entered the dwelling. After waiting for the end of the date, the husband ambushed the adulterer on the path and shot him without further ado. But he didn't stop there. After cutting out some of the meat from his back, he brought it to his wife and made her cook it. Then, pointing the barrel of the rifle at her chest, he told her whose meat she had just fried and forced him to eat it, cynically saying, "Don't be squeamish, you loved him so much. I don't see joy in your eyes." After that, he shot his wife as well.
In some tribes, a woman convicted of treason kept her life, but was subjected to a different kind of punishment. For example, one of the husbands from the Cherokee tribe, tired of the constant infidelities of the faithful, after consulting with relatives, applied such punishment. The woman was taken to the forest, tied to stakes, and given to the abuse of 50 other members of the tribe. The Cheyennes have a whole tradition of such acts. If the husband was in one of the military communities, he gave the unfaithful wife for rape to all men from his order, excluding his wife's relatives. Everything was supposedly decently furnished. The spouse invited friends to a feast on the prairies, where everyone ate meat, talked, and at the same time raped the unfaithful spouse. However, D. Greinel, a specialist in Cheyenne history, argues that such orgies were considered shameful, and the mothers and wives of the participants reproached them, and they shyly averted their eyes to the side. Nevertheless, the practice of such executions continued to exist. In general, rape among Indians within the tribe was considered a disgrace, but sometimes it still happened. For example, Costin in the article Unknown Stories. The Vicious Instincts of the Indians tells the story of an Apache boy who was rejected by a girl. He couldn't think of anything smarter than to invite her to ride a horse, take her to the canyon, and rape her. After that, he let her go home, giving her this very horse. When the girl came home, she told her parents everything and asked them to kill the animal that unwittingly participated in the crime. Moreover, it soon turned out that the victim was pregnant. Then the mother came to the camp of the rapist and told his relatives about what had happened. The young man's parents offered to marry the victim and the scoundrel, which was done. How the girl felt, the story is silent. The Ute Indians had a nasty tradition. Their young men united in a fighting society of dogs and sometimes flew into the settlement at full gallop, filling it with their cries. The residents, accustomed to everything, did not pay any attention to the boozoters, but as soon as one of the girls or women laughed at the impudence, they were kidnapped, taken to a dog fighting camp, and gang raped.
In many prairie tribes, there were prohibitions in the field of sex. In the article Unknown Stories, Marriage and Sex Among Indians Costin argues that incest was a strict taboo among all tribes of the Great Plains. The Apaches forbade close relationships. The perpetrators had to repent in front of the whole village. The Cree Indians did not allow the girl to communicate with her relatives and cousins, and if a woman was convicted of incest, a bone needle was dragged under her skin, from neck to heel. A Comanche brother could kill his sister if she just talked to him, and he wouldn't get anything for it. The Apache had a ban on sex during the harvesting and processing of the agave crop. If the product turned out to be of poor quality, the Indians began to find out which of the married couples had violated the taboo. In addition to prohibitions, there were also bizarre rituals. During the expedition of 1803 to 1806, the American researcher M. Lewis described the tradition of the Mandan tribe, calling it the rite of calling bison. The elders of the tribe sat in the ritual tent and depicted bison. The hunters took turns bringing their wives wrapped in skins. The wives fed the old men and invited them to take a walk in the forest. There they had sex with the elders, perceiving it as intercourse with the bison and hoping that the animals would soon come to the camp. Sometimes one woman could satisfy a dozen respected elders in a night. However, the same Lewis claimed that not every elder was a real bison and could have sex with at least one woman. So more often than not, these walks ended with the elder just praying in the woods alone. What can you do? There was no Viagra then, and somehow you need to lure the bison to the camp.
Thank you if you listened to the end. Subscribe, like and send your stories. Bye.